When I was reading The Perfection Trap, the first time somebody had commented about growth mindset with not as much exuberance as I get on LinkedIn. Everybody wants to talk about growth mindset. I get it. I love positivity and all of those things, but there was something in the way you had mentioned about growth mindset that made so much more sense to me than this relentless focus on if only you could think like this and be like this, everything would be okay.
It's a hard read for people in America, I think, because, and also the UK as well to a certain extent, because it does challenge a lot of conventional wisdoms. And one of them is this idea that we are programmed to constantly grow. I don't think that's true. And one of the worries that I have with the growth mindset is not that it isn't important. It is important, particularly when we're learning new things, and particularly for children, and particularly for children from disadvantaged backgrounds. The data is very, very clear. This stuff works. Like if you can focus your cultures and climates around effort and mastery and learning, and you don't put limits onto young people's sense of self-concept and what they can achieve within maths, science, whatever, then data are very clear. You can really grow and develop their aptitudes in those areas. My problem with it though is once it becomes writ large across the whole of society as the only way to think, or the only mindset in which we can adopt, or we should adopt. And I have this problem for a couple of reasons. The main one is that there's no growth under conditions of abundance. So if there can only be growth under conditions of scarcity, right? That's just the way, that's by definition, that's the way it works. So growth doesn't thrive in a place of contentment, of happiness, of fulfillment, and where we are right now in this moment, right? It only thrives when we feel like we lack something, we need to improve, or in some way need to be better than we already are. And that's a problem, because if you constantly have a growth mindset to the way that you think and act, you're going to never find contentment, or never going to find very much contentment anyway. But the second one is that Curran talked about tyrannies of should, like way back in the 40s and 50s. Very influential thinker, an overlooked thinker. Talked about tyrannies of should, that people were tyrannized by how they should behave, how they should look, how they should parent, how they should present themselves and interact with other people. Particularly this pressure weighed heavily on women. She saw it in her clinic time and time again. And the way that we tried to reconcile these tyrannies of should was to create a persona, a facade, in which we were the person we thought we should be. We were the attractive, diligent, perfect mother and all the rest of it, right? And the difficulty for women in that era was that there was conflict between the way that they were told they should feel and think and behave and the way that they actually felt. And that conflict was bridged with perfectionism. So she was the first one to talk about perfectionism, and she talked it through the tyrannies of should. I think what we're seeing today is something slightly different, and that's a tyranny of could. So there's a sense that these shoulds and duties and obligations have sort of been stripped away. We've become more equal, kind of. We have a social conscience, that freedoms have started to open up, and people are more free to do whatever they like, and the possibility is limitless. But that's a problem now, because instead of feeling tyrannized by the things we think we should do, we now feel tyrannized by the things we think we could do. We could be this perfect person. We just work hard enough, we could achieve this perfect life and lifestyle. The possibilities are limitless, and that's encapsulated in the growth mindset, that if we just keep growing, we will get there. But again, it's the same problem with the tyranny of should. Just like we'll never be the person we feel like we should be, we're also never going to be the person we could be. There's always going to be something more for us to chase. And so the growth mindset, I think, while on the one hand lifting us up, also on the other hand creates a long-term unfulfilled life that's only really broken when we shed out that mindset and actually focus more on contentment, fulfillment, being happy in the moment, being more intentional about the way we live, and recognizing that we've reached a point in our careers or our personal lives where we have done what we wanted to do, and that's enough, and that we can enjoy that in some way. We can find satisfaction in that, and that we don't have to feel shame for that. We can give ourselves permission to do that and not feel people are judging us for slowing down or settling or whatever it might be. And I think that, again, one of the things I wanted to do with the critique of the growth mindset was just to try and move the conversation on a little bit from this kind of myopic view of growth as being good at all times to something that's good sometimes and perhaps not good other times.